Good morning. I wanted to dedicate this video to my mom. We call her Miss Mary, and to focus only on the positive through thought selection. On to the reading. Vanity, the killer. It is vanity, isolated ego, which is always our undoing. It's, I have to do this, I have to do that. Definitely sounds like me. I. Definitely me. When the truth is that the I does nothing but choose and accept, and all things are done by the universal subconscious mind. Popular opinion to the contrary, vanity is more likely to be found among the failures and the diseased and the poverty stricken than it is among the successful and healthy. For vanity is no more, no less than a sense of personal responsibility. Personal responsibility. An acute sense of ego as being separated and isolated from the universal subconscious mind, also known as God, or what's called the Supreme Being, opposed to the Creator God. A person who falls prey to disease believes that he must take constant precautions against the invisible microbes which are constantly threatening him or her. He or she believes that the whole matter of his or her being free from disease depends upon his taking the proper physical precautions at the proper time, and the ritual with which he calls forth the God of health is contained in bottles and boxes of powders, liquids, and nostrums. It is true that very often these medicaments produce desired result for the very reason that the person is taking them believes they will. If he in the first place would simply have faith in the perfect spirit that has made his body manifest, he would let go of his sense of personal responsibility, invoke the power of the self-conscious for physical vigor, and never fall prey to disease at all. This is why selection of thought is so important. We have the power to choose either the positive or the negative through something called free will. And the reason why I know so much about this is because I would choose the negative by default because I really didn't understand and I didn't know. The evil of isolation is the same with failure. A man or woman who sets out to achieve anything on the basis that it is all up to him will shortly be engulfed by a myriad, or what is called a great deal of problems and decisions. No man alone is big enough to do anything. No man alone or woman is big enough to do anything. No man alone or woman is big enough to do anything. He didn't put himself upon this earth. He cannot save himself from departing. All the ingenuity of science cannot make so much as a single blade of grass. All the ingenuity of science cannot make so much as a single blade of grass. As long as a man carries with him a sense of having to do anything all by himself, he will inevitably fail at what he attempts to do. But when he lets go of his vanity, sees his unity with all life and all things, rejects personal isolation, then he invites the great power into his life, and all things are arranged according to the good he desires. Vanity is an acute sense of separateness. Vanity causes us to see all things and all people as obstacles in our path. Vanity would have us believe that all things are arranged in the physical world rather than on the plane of infinite mind. It draws us in, it closes us up. It causes us to lend reality to evil and negative circumstance. It gives birth to resentment, to belligerence, to hate, and even to violence. How silly and even stupid it is, yet how difficult to abolish. The two ends of life are equalizers. Into life we enter naked, and naked we depart. Yet the majority of us act as if the most important thing in all of life is to get the best of our neighbors, better clothes, better cars, better jobs. We frustrate ourselves with our isolated egos and spill out our energies on the relentless blade of competition. We set out to deal with the world as if it were an enemy aimed at stopping us, and the world turns out to be exactly what we conceive it to be, as it always must. The more opposition we see, the more frantic we become, hung on the endless wheel of our own thoughts and conceptions. In Ecclesiastes, we find the remarkable quotation: Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. The writer of this most astute metaphysical observation knew that man's greatest error was concerned with isolating himself from God, or the universal subconscious mind, in which all things have their being, in which all power is contained. So sad it is to see vanity in the high places or the low, for vanity preludes disaster as pride goeth before a fall. Acknowledging the senior partner, and we already know who that is. That is the supreme being, not the creator God. The successful and vigorous person cannot be vain. If he becomes so, he is shortly reduced to failure and a lack of being able to do anything. A man sometimes repeatedly climbs the heights only to fall again to the bottom with a resounding crash. Each time he seems supported to the top by a stroke of luck, and each time that he arrives at the top, he says to himself, I did it all by myself. What a great man I am, and down he comes again. Humility regained, and the subconscious again allowed to enter his life. He once more begins the ascent through another set of fortunate circumstances. Some men have written this situation 8 or 9 times and still are no wiser for it. Vanity is a sin so close to the human heart. Then you can rest assured of the really great and outstanding people of our world have a constant partner, God or the subconscious mind, whichever you will, and this partner is consulted on all matters and is acknowledged to be the doer of all their deeds. They, like Jesus, attune themselves to all the power of creation when they acknowledge it is not I who does the works, but the Father who dwells within me. But the Father who dwells within me. The Father who dwells within me, and therefore you. No one has what is called a monopoly, though it may appear to be so, but that is limited in thinking and delusional. Let go and let God. Overcoming vanity and relaxing into mental attitudes of trust and confidence often have been expressed in the metaphysical saying, let go and let God. Yet it would seem from observation, many who quote this saying that they haven't absorbed it, On the one hand, they say trust in God, and on the other hand, they act as if God were quite untrustworthy. They set out for certain goals, create the attainment of these goals on the plane of mind, and accept the image. But the very first time they observe that the path they are following doesn't coincide with the route they believe they should take, they are convinced that God has made a mistake or hasn't heard them in the first place. Such as, I'm not going to get there, is their first reaction, and naturally the subconscious mind then sees to it that they don't. Me. You can't predict the subconscious mind, and you can't outguess the subconscious mind. And if you try, you defeat those very things you have set out to do. It is strange that any of us ever tried to tell God how to do things in the first place, since most of us will readily admit that we don't know everything. The subconscious mind always works with the perfect knowledge of all times, all places, all people, all things. It must answer billions of different conceptions. Only God knows the way a thing may be done, and man never will. Not until his evolution has brought him complete unity with the universal subconscious mind. But whatever you conceive and accept with faith will be yours, regardless of the apparent circuitous paths and byroads you must follow to its attainment. Me again. The road you are guided to take is the only way. There is no other. And as long as you work with the subconscious mind, your steps and routes are perfect. Me, in the sense of everyone else who may be listening to this video, everybody's road is different. And when I say me, I'm focusing on the sense that I'm finding out that gaining this information isn't just for me. It's how I can assist others in reference to getting toward their objectives and where they're going a little quicker and have a better understanding. I'm sure that many people wonder to themselves, why me? Why am I going through this? Why is this situation happening? And when you get greater clarity, it gives you better understanding how you can do whatever it is that you want to do, whether you want to be a teacher, whether you want to be a designer, whether you want to be an inventor, whether you want to be in the cutting edge in fashion, in makeup, whatever it is that you want to do. For example, I've noticed that in particular, African Americans, to be careful about my wording, is that we are consumers, but we don't produce anything. And we get stopped almost nearly by every path that we take. For example, I personally don't know of any African man or woman, African American that is, who owns, who produces automobiles or has a company that creates something that is needed or necessary by the dominant population who tends to run things. Why is that? So for me, I sit back and I think about that, and I think about, if I did choose to do this and I asked the Lord to assist and help me, how would I create factories? How would I offer jobs to people so they could realize their objectives? How would I uh, partner with the Supreme Being, with the subconscious mind to make this happen? Because at the end of the day, I know deep in my heart that this is my path. I also found out that the only person that I need to focus on is myself to get where I'm going, with definitely the help of God, the Supreme Being, the subconscious mind, to realize what my purpose is. That's the main thing that I've been working on more than anything else. What is my purpose? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? How do I know that I'm taking the right steps? Is it scary? Absolutely. Do I have a greater faith? Absolutely. Getting better with my meditations, uh, using it a little bit longer in terms of remaining in that state with the indwelling host. Also, I've learned two different ways, which I'm not going to speak about because I know I have to get this done along with the subconscious mind, and that is I am seeking to learn how to reprogram myself. Obviously, my prompts and my programs have been focused on where it's worked against me in terms of what I feel my purpose is. I know that a lot of my programs within me, my prompts, are based on failure. They're based on where I have 51% of the time thought in the negative, and therefore, by thought, I produce the negative. And so, what I'm working on now, technically, you only need mathematically 51% for your life to start changing. I increased that percentage, and for me, I've made it 61%. And so, what I'm learning is that my present is a result of my thought of yesterday and what I predominantly focus upon. So, would I say that I am in anticipation? Absolutely. Expectation, learning how to have conviction. My understanding that it is thought, faith, conviction that creates your reality in terms of what